turn it over to Fresno, and I'm going to stop share because they're actually going to drive because they're going to have a couple of live videos to demonstrate. So I'm going to give them control and have Fresno take it away in just a moment. You've heard their program referenced as far as their scale, number of courses, sections, SI leaders. They're also one of the 2 certified programs. They've also won many awards. So we have a very big team from Fresno joining us as well today. They work extremely well as a team and as a network, and so you're going to see the results of some of that here in just a moment. So Fresno, I'll let you do introductions, whether it's Maiku or Go. Take it away.
Thank you, Brett. Welcome, and welcome to Fresno. My name is Mike. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Maiku Bang, and I am the interim director for the Learning Center. And Fresno Supplemental Instruction is actually one of the 3 main programs under the umbrella of the Learning Center. So I have here my SI professional staff team and also one of our SI leader. I'm going to be having them introduce themselves to you guys as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Yang. I am the interim SI coordinator.
My name is Nancy Rosales. I'm the SI specialist.
I'm Tony Lasonko, Academic Support Specialist.
And I'm Sandra, the SI Leader for Human Anatomy and Physiology.
And just to give you guys a quick little background, we actually piloted virtual online SI back in fall 2015 within in one course, Biology 10, which is our general biology course. And the intention was to help us expand the program. We were also dealing a lot with space issues. So virtual online has definitely helped us grow in terms of SI and adding more courses and sections, and also helping us reach our commuter student population as well. I'm not going to go a lot into it just because Nancy will be going more into detail. So I'm going to turn over to Nancy to give more information about that.
All right, just to give a brief overview about SI here at Fresno State, it started in 2000. For this academic year, we were supporting 182 courses. That's 223 sections. So across the board, we have a total of 14,639 students enrolled. We have a team of 165 SI leaders and 16 SI mentors for that academic year, and supporting 17 departments within the 7 of the colleges here at Fresno State. As far as SI at Fresno State, as Maiku was already mentioning, we've had online SI, but it wasn't necessarily flourishing the way we wanted it to. Like everything else, it takes a lot of time, time to invest in training, time to invest in observation and feedback of SI leaders as well. So we've definitely taken a more proactive approach in being able to invest that time into those. Also, as she mentioned, the classroom space, everyone struggles with space and trying to have those times that work with students' populations, but we're able to find rooms to hold those sessions as well. So with online SI, we're able to not worry about the space and have our sessions via Zoom. Zoom is the platform that we use for our online SI because a lot of the features definitely help make SI possible, like the breakout rooms, being able to share the screen and annotating a lot of those features. And again, like Maiku was mentioning, the accessibility for students. So it helps us reach students that we probably wouldn't reach if they were only in-person sessions. So for commuter students who maybe are done at the end of the day and wouldn't necessarily stay for an SI session because they need to get home or want to be home, we're able to still have them participate in SI from the convenience of whatever location that they are in. As long as they have a computer, they're able to access SI for their course and still get that support. So it's definitely helped us expand in accessibility for students. We still hold an online session, but also the in-person. And we have our 2 office hours times that we offer for students also in person. So there's 3 face-to-face and then the online opportunity for students throughout the week. We also implemented the cohort model, which is something that we would definitely recommend because we've seen that a lot of times with having more than just one leader learn how to navigate Zoom and do SI on Zoom, they definitely lean on each other. And I'll actually have Sandra elaborate more on her experience in the cohort model as well.
Yeah, and as Nancy mentioned, that it does help us bounce ideas off each other and share some new interactive tools that we found online. So it's a good way. And also we do this on a monthly basis. So if we find something new, we have our time to project it and also share our ideas. So I really like the cohort model.
Going into our SI course selection process, we look at courses where we have high attending courses, high enrollment in those courses, hybrid courses. For example, one of our econ courses is a hybrid course that's in person, but also has online components to the course. We have a business administration course that's fully online, so supporting an online course as well and providing support for those students. And also underserved students where we have high enrollment, but there's a low SI participation rate. And another key critical process is selecting the SI leaders who can facilitate online Zoom. Most of our cohort are returning SI leaders. And with that, they've already had experience facilitating in-person sessions, truly modeling SI. So having that and having creative leaders who can still have that engagement, because a lot of people, I think the worry is, how do you keep students actively participating in those sessions? So having those strong classroom management skills, because just like an in-person session, the work is on the students and the SI leader is there to facilitate that learning within the student-to-student interactions in there. So I'll go ahead and transition over to Ko, who's gonna elaborate more on the training of SI leaders.
So I think a common thing we notice among our professional staff and our SI leaders is the apprehension of doing online sessions. We use Zoom as a platform to facilitate our online sessions, and a lot of times our leaders are intimidated by the fact that you're transforming a face-to-face session, activities that you would do face-to-face, into an online platform. So we wanted to make sure that we are very intentional with our training for both fall and spring semester. So before we fully dive into the training itself, I wanted to just quickly highlight the courses supported for spring 2019. Here on the campus, it's our BA 18, Bio 10, 2067A, 67B, Chem 1A, 3A, Econ 40, Math 45, and Poli Sci 2. So we were fortunate to spend last summer really strategically refining how it is that we wanted to do our virtual SI at Fresno State. So we were fortunate to put together 2 weeks of intensive SI training for Zoom. So after we selected our cohort of SI leaders, our team itself planned our training for the first 2 weeks. And the first week was really allocated towards making sure that we prepare our SI leaders to learn about Zoom, its features, navigation. We have objectives. This was our action plan. I won't read it thoroughly just given the time that we have left, but every day we mapped up exactly our objectives and what our SI leaders should accomplish after each day of training. So again, week 1 was all about navigation, learning Zoom. Let's go ahead and get all the jitters out before we fully start planning our sessions. Week 2 was now that you've learned about SI and its features, let's go ahead and incorporate interactive tools that you can build and plan your session. So we gave the task to all our SI leaders to plan the first 2 sessions for the fall semester. So in a nutshell, that's what we did for fall 2018. Moving towards spring 2019, our turnover time, it was a lot quicker. So we knew that we weren't able to offer the full 2 weeks of intensive training for the spring cohort. However, because we have our first cohort, we wanted to incorporate them into our spring training so that way we can have that additional support as well. Our spring training consisted of 2 days, and similar, this is our action plan again. It was a lot more concise. However, we wanted to really hit home on quality. And something that we did different from fall to spring was we now have our monthly trainings as well. So, I think with Zoom, you can't just, coach your leaders at the beginning of the semester and expect them to be, near perfection every single time they go into sessions. Training is ongoing, just how we do training for our face-to-face sessions. Online sessions need to also have ongoing training. So day 1 was all about, again, navigating Zoom, learning the different platform, how can you facilitate successfully great fruitful sessions online. And then day 2 was planning again. And because we had our cohort, we had them pair up with the new leaders who are now on Zoom to really make sure that they have those support. So in a snapshot, this is how we facilitated our training for fall to spring. We are still continuously trying to refine how we want to do training, just because it's such a critical piece to the successful launch of SI in any component at any institution. And our SI leaders are continuously finding new ways to make SI accessible, especially the interactive tools. I know that's something common among all our SI leaders was, the fear of it becoming not so interactive anymore because it was online. So we really want to focus on that. And even this summer, we plan to really refine how we want to do training once more. So this is just a quick snapshot of how we did training. Should you have any questions on training, we're more than happy to answer those questions afterwards.
Okay, so I'll speak briefly about some of the analysis, some of the things that we have observed in doing these in terms of data. We have noticed, well, we're in our second semester of doing this expanded or more formal version of virtual SI on campus. So we are still refining those methods and the processes for collecting and analyzing data specific to online sessions, and to distinguish between online sessions and face-to-face sessions. What we have, our online platform for checking in students called Bulldog Connect. Last semester, it did not distinguish between online visits and face-to-face visits. So we have some ways of looking at sort of the postmortem, I guess, of how things went in fall 2018, but are refining those methods for spring 2019, because now in that Bulldog Connect platform, we are able to distinguish between online visits and face-to-face visits when we check in students, that they're checking in for an online session. So we see higher capacity to serve more students in Zoom, especially before exams. The classroom that might have easily fit 15 to 20 students for pre-exam or an exam review now can hold 40 or 50 students within an online session. We compared those fall 2018 rates for 5 of our courses that had the same faculty and number of SI leaders as historically to these historical averages in terms of participation rate and average number of visits. So we find that for participation rate, 3 of those courses had an increased participation rate. We're looking at sort of the net effect of having just one online session per week for these courses. They were a higher participation rate for overall for 3 of the 5 courses, a higher average number of visits for 3 of the 5 courses. And like I said, we are able to now check in students and say that this is for an online visit and distinguish that from our face-to-face visits. And then this sort of sets our goals, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, going forward for for the end of this semester with how we want that net effect for our solo courses with one SI leader, as well as our collaboration courses. So I'll pass this to Sandra, who can talk about some of the qualitative observations that we've noticed.
Okay, so right now we're just gonna pull up a clip from my online session. So.
One is stem cells at the edge of the perichondrium begin to divide. And then step 2, new undifferentiated stem cells in new chondroblasts are formed. And then chondroblasts are pushed apart and become chondrocytes. And that happens in the perichondrium, which is the outside of the bone.
Okay, so what's the main difference between the location where the joint is?
Interstitial happens in the deeper part of the bone.
Mm-hmm. And then appositional growth?
And appositional growth happens in the perichondrium or the bone.
Yeah, so that's some keywords right there. And this one's happening deep to appositional. Yeah. So just
gonna highlight that. Oh, you underlined it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something that when you guys are like writing stuff down, is there some key things, the key differences? Just go ahead and.
Okay, so that's one of the videos that I want to share with you all. So it still holds the core essence of the core 4, which is study skills and also group work. Within that same document, there was 3 other students working on it. So with that, the course that I'm doing it for is a professor who uploads all the PowerPoint slides. So in this case, they could just snip a picture from the PowerPoint slides and then input it inside that. So I think that's a really neat thing when you're doing worksheets online, because then that's way people can upload pictures or like grab something from Google so they can put it all in one document and they can refer back to it whenever they're studying over it again. And if students had to leave early during that time, then they already have the link, so they're able to refer back to it. And then I think there's another example that you want to share. Just a second.
Go ahead and start recording. Okay. Can I go ahead?
So this is another SI leader, Ender. So this is when she was holding, I think she was using Padlet. So with this one, there's like various locations where students were tuning in from, and one of them being from a bus. So that student was going in from, was commuting and was taking a bus ride home. And the neat thing about this is that students can join in from a variety of locations. Like I had, my personal story was I had a student join from Starbucks because that student commutes from Merced. So meanwhile, they were driving from Fresno to Merced, they stopped at Starbucks and then joined my session. But here's a clip of Ender's.
Then we'll try to see what we can do. Okay. So, okay, it's kind of hard just to write on the board for me, like with the typing, but with you guys, it's the same thing as the share screen that we do on Zoom itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave this open for you guys. Since it's a warm-up, we're not gonna do breakout rooms for this, but later on in the session, we're gonna do breakout rooms for every other part of it. So for right now, I want you guys to go ahead and start. You guys can discuss first, or you guys can, so there's 4 of you, right? So you guys can each pick a number and just write the answer. So like 1 through 3 are formulas, and so is 4. And then 5 and 6 is a bit more conceptual. So for 6, I actually want you guys to discuss amongst yourselves. So are you guys all able to write on the whiteboard? Yeah, okay. And how about let's do this? Okay, so Pablo, can I get you to write in black? Kelly, can I get you to write in blue? Alejandro, can I get you to write in red? And Ariel, get you to write in green. That way I'll have like a differentiation between who's writing in what color.
Okay, so I think I mentioned earlier that it was Padlet, but it's actually all app. So within our ongoing trainings, we do introduce to each other a bunch of other interactive tools, such as Padlet or all app, as you've seen. But for me, well, for most of us, the one thing that works for all of us is the Google Docs. And coming into doing online sessions, the 2 types of apps that I thought that I was familiar with was Quizlet and Kahoot. So I've used those personally in person. And I thought with those 2 apps, it really encouraged me it actually made me more hopeful that online SI sessions can definitely work. So those were like the 2 apps that I mostly used for my first semester doing online SI. But then after a while, I was trying to make another worksheet in which like the students can grab a term and then drop it into the anatomical, like say we're looking at the bones of the skeletal system. So that way they can just grab the term and then drop it in there. So I found Go Conquer to be very helpful in that situation. So after that, I thought that was a really helpful tool. So, and another tool that another student helped us out into expanding our online tools was Flippity, which I don't think you guys can see it there, but that one is provided by Google. So it has templates of different types of games you can play. So it has Hangman, it has Quiz Show, which is similar to Jeopardy. So the one I used in my recent session was like Quiz Show, I think it was called, which is like a Jeopardy game. And I usually use that mostly for checking for understanding. And it can definitely work for group work and stuff like that. But the neat thing that I liked about having these online links is that they can keep it and bookmark it and probably refer back to it when they're studying with it. So yeah, and the way I introduced Zoom to the students was by a warm-up for my in-person session. So I thought if the students were not so comfortable just clicking the link and joining into my online session, I thought I'd bring it into my in-person session in which they can get comfortable, they can ask your questions. And I think it really did help, because this semester I have seen a big improvement in recruiting students, and also it's spread by word of mouth. So I think that it can definitely grow if we continue promoting it through in-person session.
Okay, so all in all, this is our presentation on how SI implements virtual SI at Fresno State. We are really cutting it close to 2 o'clock, so we have about 4 minutes for questions. We do have another engagement right after at 2 o'clock, so Fresno might be checking out real quick. So we do open a few minutes for questions. So I think I saw one in the chat box asking about if SI leaders are given incentives, or the benefits of having SI leaders participate in online SI. I know that when we first selected our SI leaders, a lot of them were apprehensive. So we knew that going in, so we wanted to be very adamant about and strategic about who we chose. We do allow our SI leaders an extra hour of paid prep time. So that way they can really practice navigating online sessions through Zoom. But we really push for SI leaders to take on this challenge. I'm sure a lot of your programs talk about sustaining a growth mindset among our SI leaders. So we are very adamant about making sure that our SI leaders pursue this challenge. And we wanted to make sure we were very supportive as well, because we know that they're already apprehensive about doing online SI. So as a team, we needed to make sure that we were trained on using Zoom and navigating Zoom, along with our second tier support from our mentors.
And then another question that was also posed was if we require our students to have their video on. And we do. We've learned from experience that our SI leaders now are a lot better at having students turn on their audio, turn on their video, and letting them know that the reason behind doing that is to make sure that, you know, they're working with students in their class so that they're able to see who they're working with. Maybe students are like getting to know each other in SI, as well as the SI leader being able to kind of facilitate and make sure that students are on task and engaged in the material. So again, that active participation that you would want to see in person as well. And oftentimes after explaining that, the students are pretty receptive to that and do participate with their audio and video as well.
And a part of our training for SI leaders is classroom management online. So for, like what Nancy said, making sure students have audio and video turned on. So that's embedded into our training as well. All right, so just due to time, Fresno has to depart right now, but we will definitely answer your questions via email. All our contact information will be shared as well. So please reach out to us if you're interested in launching virtual SI on your campus.
Great. Thank you so much, Fresno State, for another excellent campus presentation on SI program and aspects. Wonderful. Thank you. And they actually were invited to give a presentation to a few campuses or more than that through the International Center this past fall, and that was very well received. A few campuses back east, I believe. So I got to sit on that and saw some of the great things that they're doing and the model they've developed. San Diego State also has a link to their protocol. So good stuff starting to happen with virtual SI, and people have been wanting to find good models more recently. So I'm going to close out with just letting you know where you can find more information. First of all, besides sending you the slides and the recordings, you'd also be able to find them at the new SI website we have for the CSU just launched this week. So at si.calstate.edu, you would be able to find more information, more context, more resources, more about our CSU SI community, the international community, professional development opportunities. So these are all listed here through the website si.calstate.edu, now available. For example, the top right link under announcements is the symposium. That'll go from a link inviting you to the symposium or allowing you to register to instead giving you the archives of the slides and the recordings. So that's just an example there. So what I'm going to do is also give you a quick preview of, oops. Ignore that. Sorry, Zoom is jumping to something else here. We also have a soft launch for our SI Exchange website. So often we see on the listserv internationally through the International Center and then also through our SI listserv in the CSU, we see people asking for different types of resources. How do you do this? How do you do that? Or do you have a resource you could share with me on a particular topic or challenge? And what we're doing is we're gathering those resources. We're actually publishing them into this resource repository we're calling SI Exchange, or SIX for short. And so we'll be making this available to our SI coordinator community starting in the next week or so. And then we'll be populating this and more with SI resources from our campuses. So for example, you could browse by your role type if you wanted to. You could browse by discipline type if you wanted to. You could look by institution. You might say, oh, I heard all these great things about Fullerton or Fresno, San Diego, San Bernardino, whatever it may be, and you can actually drill into some of theirs. We have it sorted out by CSU and non-CSU because we're actually gathering materials from other institutions outside of the CSU. So these are all Creative Commons licensed by the people that are contributing them, meaning that you would be able to adopt or adapt these resources as long as you give attribution to the author. You can also search by keyword. If I look at discipline, just to give you an example really quick, because I know time has just run over. Oh, accounting wasn't the best one to choose. Let me choose chemistry here and some of our examples. And so these would then become live links, or actually, excuse me, are live links. So here's for Chemistry 107. Here's a sample lesson plan that an SI leader could use for delivering one of those sessions for a related course. You'd be actually able to download that document, and then the SI leader could adopt or adapt that to their SI session that they're running at their campus. So that's just a quick example there. I'll put the link to the SI website into the chat in a moment, but again, that's si.calstate.edu. And let me just hit stop share. And we'll wind down our session. Thank you again to all the presenters, attendees, panelists. Excellent session, and we look forward to sharing this out with the larger community as far as recordings and slides in the near future.